Welcome to episode 32 of the Credit Card BS podcast. My name is Sean. I'm the UC Berkeley graduate that created and taught the university-sponsored course on credit card rewards. Today, I'm joined with a very special guest, as well as my co-host, Sherwin.
So hi, everyone. I'm Sherwin. As you all know, I'm a Stanford student who's really into the credit cards, travel, miles, points hobby. First got into this game about a year ago, and since then, I've accumulated a lot of points, gone on a lot of cool trips. Today's episode, we have a very special guest, Sam, aka DuckyTheGamer. So Sam, do you want to introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, so my name is Sam, probably better known online as DuckyTheGamer. I've been a full-time gaming content creator for the last 5 years or so now, and I've gotten pretty deep into the credit card hobby this last year, and been watching a lot of the Credit Card BS podcast episodes, trying to absorb as much information as I can, and I've gotten a lot of really good tidbits, and so I'm here to explain a little bit of my strategy and talk to these fine folks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's first start off with, how did you get into YouTube? And then how did you get into the credit card space?
So I don't know if did you guys game at all growing up?
Oh, I did a ton.
Okay.
A ton.
What'd you play?
I played like PUBG, CSGO a lot in middle school. I did like VR gaming as well when that became popular.
So yeah, see, that's a real game. You were a hardcore gamer back in the day.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I started gaming when I was like 5 or 6 because of my dad. Growing up, started making videos back in like the FaZe Clan era of gaming, Call of Duty days when I was 13. Was getting 10, 15 views a video back then. Just kept doing it, was having fun. Would upload sporadically, and then around early days of high school, I took things a little bit more serious, enjoyed video editing, enjoyed the producing of the content and making thumbnails, and slowly the views started to accumulate 1,000 a video, 2,000, 5,000 a video. And then the summer between going to college, graduating high school and going to college, I kind of eclipsed this threshold of where I could go full time. And so I went to college for a semester and then dropped out after that semester to pursue YouTube full time. And that was back in 2018. And so it's been a wild ride. In those 5 years, people went from not knowing you could do YouTube as a profession to now every kid wanting to do YouTube as a profession. So it's been crazy. And as a YouTuber, I have expenses. They're not very traditional expenses. And you know, this form of, I don't do a lot of marketing ad spend. I don't have a lot of physical merchandise that I have to stock from inventory. But I do have some spend that has allowed me to really accelerate my credit card strategy, my business credit card strategy, and allowed to already have done some pretty cool redemptions this year and have some trips planned up, and a pretty fun game plan moving forward. And so that's the spiel.
Oh, very cool. So I'm curious, like, what are the main expenses you have for your business, and what credit cards you generally use, or if you have a general strategy? Is it sign-up bonuses? Is it particular ecosystems?
So when I started my credit card journey. The first credit card I got, rewards card, was 2 years ago. I just had like one credit card from my local bank, so my score wasn't good enough to get like a card with an annual fee. So I think it's the Venture or the Capital One Venture One Rewards, like the no sign-up bonus, no perks, no nothing card. And I got some points, got some miles. And then I moved to the Chase Sapphire Preferred line of things earlier this year for my first like sign-up bonus card. And I was like, whoa, sign-up bonus. Like, I was already going to spend this money anyways, and I'm getting 60,000 points. Like, that's kind of crazy. And then I didn't realize that, you know, that's kind of on the low end of, you know, annual fee credit card sign-up bonuses. And then I just, as I was looking for my business, I was like, well, if I'm having personal spend, I'm already putting, you know, business spend on an existing debit card, just get it on a business card and get the sign-up bonus points that way. And then, you know, obviously the rabbit hole of Chase 524 and all those little nuances. But for the spend, it's mainly like video editors. It's like services. So I make most of my own thumbnails. I edit some videos, but mainly just hiring a video editor that I work with to edit a majority of my content. I have some like tech needs that I need, equipment. If I need a new product that's come out, a new phone, a new tablet for my line of work in gaming, which those can help a lot in terms of sign up bonuses. $1,000, sometimes $1,500 device is almost half of some sign up bonuses. So for me, that's where it clicked of rather than hunting multipliers and hunting categories, you can't really beat, 15-20% return on spend for a sign up bonus. And so especially with Chase 524 and, business cards not reporting to your personal credit history, I just have been opening a business card like once every like 2 months ish and just hitting the bonus and then just getting another one. And it feels like a cheat code. Like it feels like I'm doing something wrong. And at some point someone's going to come knocking and say, you can't do this, but it hasn't happened yet. And so we're trying to play by the rules and have fun while doing it.
I think you bring up a really good point about the value of the sign-up bonuses because, for example, a Chase Inc. bonus is easily 75,000, if not 90,000 points sometimes. And you'd have to spend like so much money to earn that many points if you're just talking about the normal 1 or 1.5 or a 2x multiplier. This is a theme Sean and I have echoed a lot is the people often overestimate how many points they're going to get for multiplier as opposed to bonuses, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like everyone entering this game is like, oh, I need to get a Freedom Flex. I need to get this card to earn this multiplier and everything. And like, oh, they want to get like 3x in all their spend. But their spend isn't even that high. So like one big sign-up bonus would outweigh their entire year worth of points earning on all these multiplier cards. So it's really good that you have been like focusing on the bonuses because that will completely change the game for you so much more than like any multiplier ever could.
Yeah, and I'm in a weird like period right now where maybe for the next like month or so I'm not working on a sign-up bonus, and that's maybe where my strategy has hurt me a little bit because I think my best card, I just got the Venture X a few weeks ago, and so now I'm at least getting 2x back on everything, but like I don't have a gas card, I don't have the Amex Gold because I'm in pop-up jail somehow, and I don't even have a charge card from them, but that's probably the only area where my strategy kind of is weak at the moment, where if I'm not working on a sign-up bonus, my categories kind of suck. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, I'm already I'm not in a shortage of points or anything like that, and so it's not like I'm need the categories to really push me over the edge for a redemption or anything. But yeah, it's also a little stressful at times because sometimes a sign-up bonus, it's elevated for a little bit, but you don't want to rush ahead and get a card that you might not need at that moment. And so it's an interesting game, can be a little stressful at times, but so far it's had more positives than negatives.
Gotcha. I was wondering if you could walk us through kind of the cards you have, the setups, card setups you have, what ecosystems you use. I remember you said stuff about Chase, business cards, Capital One, Venture X, and perhaps Amex. So I'm curious to know more about your setup.
Yeah, so the first card, I think if it wasn't for business cards, I probably wouldn't be so entrenched in this hobby. Because with personal cards, you can't open too many because then can hurt your credit report. And so I think because of the Chase Ink Unlimited, that was my first business card that I got, and realizing like this was so easy. Like I spend this money anyways with my business. And now I've started just putting my existing rent on my business cards. Just to help accelerate the sign-up bonus accumulation. And so the Chase Ink Unlimited was my first one. Got that sign-up bonus. Didn't have like a P2 referral or anything. And I can't remember. I don't think it was elevated. It was probably just like the standard 75,000 points. I did the Amex Hilton business card when that had the free night certificate and 150,000 miles. Still haven't used that certificate. I don't know where I'm going to use it before it expires. We
gotta help him think of one later.
Yeah. The Chase Ink Preferred was my next one. That was, I think that might have been, that was the elevated 100,000 point one. And then the IHG Premier one, which I want to appreciate you, Sean, for pointing that one out, because if it wasn't for the IHG shout out like way early on in the podcast, then I probably wouldn't have looked at the card, would have just brushed it off as another hotel credit card. But that came in clutch recently for a redemption. And then the Amex Gold, I wasn't able to get the 150,000 bonus. I got 125,000 because it was a few days before like it became well known how to get the highest offer easy. But I'm not complaining
Are you
about
talking about the business gold or the personal?
those are all the business cards that I have
Gotcha.
open at the moment. So that's the last one, and I think next month I'll go for another ink card. Finish off the
Nice.
trifecta with the ink cash.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. You obviously are someone that has a fully legitimate business. You have, recurring revenue and all that. What would you say to someone that is going, "Oh, I don't want to get a business card because I don't have a business," or maybe they think they don't have a business? What would you say to that person? Because as you said, business cards really are where you get some of the insane value, because at personal cards, your velocity is capped so low, right? You can't even get that many of them.
Yeah, it's tricky because I think in like the fine details, in at least Chase, it's like the spend on these cards needs to be for business purposes. And I'm not recommending this is, I'm obviously not a financial advisor, I'm a YouTuber, but in a gaming YouTuber for crying out loud. But I think like there's no way they're not gonna like validate that, you going out to eat and putting that expense on a business card was a business expense, as long as you're not like reporting your expenses to the IRS, and like that's a whole nother ballpark. I think a lot of people get caught up in like those nuances of like someone's gonna find out there's no way this is like legal, but it's from my understanding, like that's not really an issue to be concerned with. And so many people nowadays in 2023 have a side hustle, have resold something on eBay, have generated income outside of like their main W-2 employment that they file for every year. So as long as there's like extra income, then you could put that on an application. And I know you guys have talked time and time again about ways to get business cards when you don't have like a full-fledged business with a set up LLC and all that stuff like I have. So there's a lot of ways around it. And I think just plug in the Discord really early, but Discord's out there, like the Travel Lane. People help members all the time with questions like this. And I've got a ton of help there myself. And it's there's definitely a community, I think, where like talking to someone and realizing that other people do the same thing is very helpful, and that like it's not as scary, it's not as intimidating as it seems. So if you have any questions, even ask me in there. I'm in the Discord. I don't mind answering questions. I have a P2 that they got a business card. They don't have a business. And they're working on the Chase Inc. Sign up bonus right now. So yeah, it's intimidating from an outsider's perspective, but once you get in the business side of things, you're like, this isn't that bad.
Awesome. Yeah, I would say thank you for the Discord plug. If you're interested, link in the description, 100% free. But okay. Sherwin, did you have anything to say before we move on?
Yeah, I think I'm curious if do you usually apply as like a sole proprietor, or you have a separate business entity that you use?
Yeah, so I have an EIN. I have a fully registered LLC under my business, and that's how like everything is filed. So I don't do what I just said of like putting willy-nilly spend on business cards and reporting it in conjunction with that business, because that's big trouble with the bad guys, the IRS. And so just all under my EIN, all under my legitimate stuff. I put my legitimate income. Everything is as truthful and as honest as can be, because if someone does come knocking, which I know sometimes like Chase can do recon, and if you're signing up as a new client, they can also ask sometimes of 1099s and proof of income and tax returns. So you don't want to get caught lying, and then you're really in a pickle. And so I try to be honest and be as forthcoming as possible.
I think that's really good advice. And generally, I think one misconception is people have this idea like, oh, it has to be like business expense or whatever. But whether an expense is tax deductible if your business has to do with the nature of the expense, rather than whether you put it on the personal or a business credit card. Like what card you put on, from my understanding, is not what decides whether something is deductible. It's about what the expense is and how it's reported. So
that's what I've heard too. Yeah, as long as you're not if you put personal expenses on a business card, Chase likely won't care, as long as you both said, you're not reporting that expense to the IRS as a business expense. It's not like, oh, if you charge something to a business card, that like the IRS sees it and goes, oh, this person's trying to charge this as a business expense. No, you actually have to like write it off as a business expense. So at least in the data points that I've seen, it hasn't been an issue if someone is charging miscellaneous expenses to a business card, as long as you're not like reporting that as a tax deductible thing. And I think also the thing to take away is that everyone has a business to some degree. So as long as it doesn't affect your immigration status or whatever, pretty much everyone has and is allowed to have some kind of a side hustle, some kind of a business. So pretty much everyone is legitimately eligible for a business credit card.
Yeah, and you don't even have to get an EIN if it's not a big, like you could apply for your social security number or sole prop. So I think we've covered like this business card thing pretty well. So let's kind of move on to the other side. It's like once we've gathered all these points, how do we use them, right? So I'm kind of curious, Sam, about your like redemption strategy, whether you focus on certain loyalty programs or just how to use your points and stuff.
So I'm not one of you guys, not one of the big ballers with, Hyatt Globalist and Hilton Diamond and all these things. So at least my strategy until maybe I get some of those better statuses at different airlines or hotels is to just redeem wherever I can get the most value for a certain trip. Most of the time that's been with Hyatt. I've gone on to Chicago recently, stayed at Hyatt. Where else? I went to Austin, stayed at a Hyatt with a crazy cents per point value at a Hyatt Place. So really just wherever the value is with the points, that's where I want to go. Because I think it was also you, Sean, that you said like the points. There's like what is it? I always forget the name. Where
Award chart?
No, like the points aren't free. Like they have an opportunity cost to them. Like they're a currency, and you don't want to get a bad conversion rate on that currency. And so I try not to be like too stingy with them. And I still spend my points when I earn them, but also making sure that I'm getting like a fair value and a fair redemption. I'm not, getting undervalued at a Hyatt or spending too many points on a flight or, booking through the travel portal and doing it that way since I don't have like the, reserve or anything like that. But yeah, very much an economy travel at the moment. I've never flown business class international, let alone premium economy. Hyatt Place is my go-to at the moment. And yeah, one day I'll stay at, all inclusive and I'll get to spend that Hilton free night certificate. But until we get the status, I think is just play the economy game, save the points for the big trip one day.
Yeah, I think that's smart, especially. Oh, sorry, you can go, Sherwin.
I don't know. I just thought this is a really good point you bring up. Like some people think like they can't get good value out of their points if they only fly economy or do Hyatt Place or whatever, but there are really good ways that don't involve the Chase travel portal, I guess. I think, the Hyatt is a really good example because your points used in a award chart. So even on the lower end of things, their points are still very valuable, unlike some other hotel chains when you can only get really good cents per point at the upper tier hotels. But Sean, what are you going to say?
Oh yeah, I agree fully with your point. And I also think it's smart how you were mentioning you're not going to focus on status until you go to like the more luxury properties, because you're totally right. Like the status benefits don't really matter that much at a Hyatt Place. They don't really give you any elite recognition. There's not really suites to get upgraded to. So it's not really worth your effort to try to get that. I feel like a lot of times people will think they want status and try to get status to do like budget or even mid-tier stays. And it doesn't really make sense to try to acquire these, high-tier statuses until you go to the very top level. You're going to get the best treatment as a globalist at like Grand Hyatts, Park Hyatts, those type of properties. At a Hyatt Place or even many Hyatt Regencies, the treatment won't be that much different, so it's really not worth your effort and time. But I think, right now you have like a really cool strategy. And then what are some of your go-to, you mentioned Hyatt Place, what are some of your other like go-to redemption methods that you've, looked into for economy travel?
For domestic at least, because international, fortunately, I feel like there's a lot of good value to be had flying economy. I haven't booked it yet, but I'm hopefully in the next few months booking a trip next year with Air France, and it seems like most of the economy is like 2 to 3 cents per point. If you can find a cheaply priced round trip with them, but for domestic, that was my big thing getting into the travel game and point redemptions with credit cards is cool. I have 60,000 Chase points. How do I spend them? Like, how do I get the value? I go to, everyone always preaches transfer partners and all the, there's no shade or anything, but a lot of people are just saying like, transfer partners, they can transfer, you can get free this. But when you get your points and you try to transfer as an American, there's no American Airlines with Chase. There's no Delta. There's no, do they have United? I think they have United, right?
Chase
They
has
do.
United, yeah.
Yeah, but
It's bad value.
yeah, I also live at a Delta hub, so the airport with the most flights I can't even directly do a transfer to. And then that's when I found out there's airline alliances where you can transfer to Virgin and then book Delta flights that way. And so
And at a better rate.
and at a better rate, yes.
Yes.
So I quickly found out about that. Found out you can transfer, and there's always usually transfer bonuses, or most of the time transfer bonuses to Virgin. They seem pretty generous with that. So I think it's like 7,500 miles to fly to like New York or Chicago. That's like 6,000 with a bonus. And so I was quickly able to realize that even though there's not an immediate way to transfer points or an obvious way, that it's still possible. Excuse me, I'm getting over a little cold.
No worries. But no, I think you're totally right on that, and that it's smart to realize, like, a lot of people like first go, okay, I want to fly United Airlines, so I got to get United miles, or I want to fly Delta, I need Delta miles. No, usually you don't want those. I think it's very weird. You know, the joke is that if you want to fly ANA first class, obviously you don't use ANA miles. You search on United and use Virgin miles, and you have to call in, and you can't search it on Virgin. So it's never as simple as it seems. And so, yeah, you're right. Like, you have to use alliances, you have to use other partners to actually get the good value. If it's not as straightforward as so many people like to think it is.
I've always found domestic travel to be most challenging. In fact, I mean, airline travel specifically, to get good value out of your points, because, you know, they usually are now revenue based. So the points are very fixed in terms of their value, often very low value, 1.2 or 1.3 cents per point. I think Delta is notorious for being bad at this. The idea is that they give you more availability because theoretically you could book most of the flights, but it would just cost you a lot more miles. But if you want good value, you kind of have to relinquish some of that wide availability and pick up those saver rewards. But then again, these domestic airlines are not doing very well in terms of releasing saver availability for their domestic flights. So, you know, this is actually ironically an aspect of the travel game I find most challenging, is getting good value for domestic airline travel.
Yeah, I mean, that's also like, that's what I do most of my traveling. I have a trip to Italy planned next year. Was gonna have it all booked on points and miles, and then I purchased IHG points when they went on sale, and then they didn't come in time. They raised the rates of the room, and then I purchased more points, and then the next day, the room no longer had availability. So, yeah, that was a fun one. That one, I was kicking myself because I thought I was gonna get the bonus in time, and then was like, oh, I'll just wait for a sale, and the sale didn't come on time, and I was like a day late. But it is what it is. It happens. Flexibility is the name of the game, so I'm not too upset. But yeah, domestic travel is what I do pretty much once a quarter as a content creator. I work from home. It's my job to sit at a desk. I work most days of the week, 6-7 days of the week. And so travel has always been like my escape. I always, I'm spending a few $1,000s every year on domestic travel. And so for me, I'm not as obsessed with finding like great international deals, because I know that's where the crazy value lies in getting business class or first class tickets and award availability and flying to Japan and doing all these crazy redemptions. But like for me as a creator, like being away from home for 7 days, that means I can't work for 7 days. It's not like I could take a laptop and into a hotel in Dubai or in the Maldives and work from there. Like I have to be at a desk at my setup with a camera, with this whole ordeal to do my job. And so for me, domestic travel, flying 3 or 6 hours, being there for a few days, coming back, like that's always the sweet spot for me. But like Sherwin was saying, it's not the sweet spot for redemptions at the moment. And so that's been the interesting and kind of fun part, especially with the business cards, of figuring out which cards can give me the most value for travel. And of course, the different transfer partners, and using British Airways recently to book an American Airlines flight. It's been difficult, but there's always a new little bit of information I didn't know, a little trick up someone's sleeve out there that they've been nice enough to relay to me, and I can use in my my armory of items and whatnot to get better value. And so it's been difficult, but it's worth it when you land and you go check in your hotel and you're like, this is for free. This was nice.
Yes, that's nice. I mean, as a full-time student, I definitely relate. Like, I'm not a full-time YouTuber, but I definitely relate to like, oh, there's availability for this thing, but I can't go because it doesn't work with my schedule. So sometimes I'm a bit jealous of Sean in that regard. But
yeah, I'm extremely flexible on my schedule. So it's usually like if I see something available and I don't have any other trips planned, I'm like, let's do it. And that's like one of the biggest advantages in this game because, unless it's really like, for example, to get these like super aspirational redemptions, like international first class, it's really a case of a few things. It's either one, you get lucky and you're trying to book when there happens to be an award drop or you get notified of a big award drop. Again, check out the Discord if you want to be notified. But another thing would be like, if you're booking the full year out, but then you have to be very solid in your plans and know you can travel at that time. Or the other one would be if you're just super flexible and that an award opens up last minute, or if you're, maybe if it opens a few months out, but you don't know until a few months out. So you still have to be flexible. And so I feel like that's one of the biggest superpowers in this game. And so that is always what makes it tough if you're booking, especially trying to book at like saver level and stuff using non-revenue based programs, because a lot of times there just won't be seats on the dates you want to go. And then your options either pay cash or go on different dates. And I feel like that's one of the biggest difficulties for people in this game. And they get these points and they go, oh, I can't use them for anything because there's nothing open on the dates I want to go. And all these points are useless. It's not that they're useless. It's just you have to understand they're a different type of currency. They're a currency that benefits flexibility above everything else.
Yeah, I feel like my family often ends up paying cash for certain aspects of our travel, even though we have hundreds of thousands of points saved up because it's just not the right use case. So just depends on how you want to play it. I think we should now talk about some of the best sweet spots for domestic travel. As I've expressed, sometimes this is a topic I find very challenging given that a lot of the domestic carriers use fixed cent per point value revenue-based currencies. But there are some cool, interesting sweet spots. So Sean, why don't you start us off with that?
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting sweet spots by far is Southwest Companion Pass. So Southwest Companion Pass, we've talked about this before, but it's basically an unlimited 2-for-1 pass. So you buy one ticket, you get the second ticket for your designated companion for only the taxes and fees. And this is really nice because if you're doing domestic flights, the taxes and fees is only $5.60 per way. So effectively, you're getting a second ticket for free. For international flights, it is higher, but it's still a significant discount over what you would normally be paying. To get this, it requires you to earn 135,000 Southwest points or only 125,000 if you hold a Southwest credit card. Now, the most interesting part about this is sign-up bonuses from these credit cards count. So if you get the sign-up bonus from like 2 Southwest cards and total you would earn over 125,000 points, that means you then get Companion Pass. And it's valid for the calendar year in which you earn it and the additional next calendar year. So you want to earn it at the very beginning of the calendar year that you're working on. And I think it's a really, really valuable promotion. It's a really, really valuable status to have. I have it. It's about to end in a few months, and I am sad about that. And Southwest is a revenue-based program, as we talked about. So it is a fixed cents per point value. There are really no major sweet spots within the program. Now, for Southwest, I feel like it does actually work because there is no first class. There is no aspirational Southwest flight. So I'm totally fine with them having a revenue-based program. And their flights are very cheap. So you can actually get on points pretty reasonable priced flights, even though it's a revenue-based program. And if you earn 125,000 points to get Companion Pass, you have a lot of points to play with. I still have too many Southwest points to play with. So I think it's I can't get rid of them. So it's a really, really, really valuable promotion. I think if you're going to try to earn it, just do it at the beginning of the calendar year and really try to be realistic about how often you're going to use it. Because even myself, I haven't used it as much as I was expecting.
Yes, I think it's revenue-based, which means it's hard to get outsized value, but that does mean every single seat that can be booked with cash is bookable with points on Southwest, so that is an advantage in terms of flexibility. Sam, is Southwest something you fly often, or have you looked into this?
So that's the only airlines domestically I've never flown. When I started looking into airlines cards and everything like that for domestic travel, I came across the Companion Pass and then was doing research. But at least for my use case, I fly out of Atlanta, and there's a decent amount of availability, but it always seems to like redirect to, I think, like Florida, and then it'll like go off to its destination. So there's very few like nonstop flights, or they're really weird hours of the day, or they don't go to the airports that I want to fly to. Like for Chicago, it only goes to Midway. It doesn't go to the main one. And so that's way further out of the way. And so it felt like a lot of like little small sacrifices that I'd have to make, either for travel time or where I'm flying into, where I'm flying out of, to like make use of that companion pass. And I think for me it doesn't fit, but I know like I think Austin or like Dallas is a hub for Southwest. And so if I lived in a, you know, in a city where that was an opportunity, then I would definitely consider it. But I think that's also something I've learned, that a lot of, you know, listening to a lot of podcasts or videos, and some creators might love Southwest because they live in Austin, or some creators might love Delta because they live in Atlanta. It's been interesting to like try to take everyone's own opinions into consideration when making my own strategy, because I don't have, you know, any airlines cards yet. I have one hotel, or I guess 2 hotel cards, but I've mainly just been doing the business side of things, where other people, you know, they have the Freedom Flex, they have the Freedom Unlimited, they have all those core setup cards, and they have their particular ways they like to redeem their points. So no, I haven't. I would like to. I still want to fly, but I'm also just kind of anxious about the whole like check-in process. Like,
oh my God.
Usually, you know,
awful.
I know, like I've heard about it, and I check in, you know, a few hours before. Sometimes I check in 2 hours before the flight because I'm busy that day. But what is it? You'd have to like set an alarm so that 24 hours before you check in, so you get a better spot in line to get on the plane.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I don't
even
like
if you
that.
get the better spot, you have to remember to line up immediately in boarding. So like, it's not like a normal airline. Like,
Oh.
you can't just show up like, you know, late, like, you know, you don't even receive a sign. So it's open seating. Even if you get the best boarding position, you still have to like make sure you're there, lined up at the gate when they start boarding. Otherwise, it was pointless, and you'll board later and get a worse seat. So to me, it's like so stressful, and it's such a waste of time. It really is a waste of time. You're spending, you know, at least 10, 20 minutes the day before, and then the whole time at the airport, you're worried about getting on the plane at the very first person. Then you have to sit on the plane the whole time versus like relaxing in the lounge. So
Okay, I have a
that's the
different
biggest
opinion.
reason
No,
for me.
I have a different opinion. I don't know about you, but I fly Southwest all the time. I actually don't think it's as bad as it sounds. I mean, yes, it is annoying in some respects, but once you understand the system, it's like not that hard. I also appreciate that because they do it a boarding system, pick your own seat. They don't try to upsell you for certain seats like other airlines. So that's kind of my I fly out of San Jose a lot, and they have a lot of Southwest flights, unlike Atlanta, for example, which is a Delta hub. But so I'm like pretty used to it. But again, it just depends on your habits and preference.
One of these days I'll fly Southwest, but I'd also don't want to transfer my Chase points to get like 1.5 cents per point. And you know, I'd only do it if I get the companion pass, but then you have to get the cards just a certain time of the year. It's like very circumstantial to get that. And even then, like, I don't know how many trips with my P2 I'll be going on to really get like value out of. So one day, also, I didn't realize that they don't show up in Google Flights, because when I would always pay cash for flights, I always use Google Flights. I just type in Atlanta to wherever, pick the cheapest option, go from there. And I would never see Southwest, but like I hear people talk about it. So that's like another thing, is having to go out of your way to like go on their website to look up their redemption, and compare it. And it's just decentralized.
They are very adamant about booking direct. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, they will
through a
not
third
let
party.
anyone see their
Yeah.
data.
And I get,
So-
I can respect that. But it's just, you know, I feel like I already spent so much time researching all these other crazy things to get value, like making it like that one extra step harder to just actually use the website. Or
Yeah.
like, it's, I don't know. It's just, I kind of forget about it at the end of the day, that the airline exists.
Fair. Okay, let's move on to some other sweet spots. So I guess I can take this one. So the Turkish Airlines deal, Sean and I have talked a number of times about. So idea is, if United has saver availability for a domestic flight, you can book it through Turkish Airlines for 7,500 points in economy, or 12,500 points in business, both one way. So that's a very good deal. However, there are many major caveats to this deal. First of all, the Turkish Airlines only transfers from Built, Capital One, and City. So something to keep in mind. But also, Sean, what is the other major caveat to this very good deal?
God. Okay, so you both have to deal with Turkish Airlines IT and potentially Turkish Airlines customer service, neither of which are fun. So their IT has gotten better. So previously, you could know there would be a flight on United Saver for certain routes, and it literally just wouldn't display on Turkish. It seems that they've mostly fixed that. So now if there is a United Saver seat, you can book it on Turkish. But there's still other problems, such as you can only book one seat if it's you can only book one seat, and it has to be the seat for the person flying online. If you call in, you can book whatever you want for another person, but online, it's only for the person flying. And theoretically, they're supposed to release that restriction once that person, the account holder, books their own seat. But in my experience, my player two's account has booked a seat for herself, still has that restriction. So it's not fun to deal with. So if I want to use her Turkish miles to book me a seat, my only option is to call Turkish Airlines, which is not fun at all. They're not they're fairly competent, but it's just a long process. You have to spell everything out phonetically. It takes a long time. Sometimes they won't know what you're talking about. Even when you try to explain the routing, they might try to look it up as two routings, even though there's just a layover. Not a fun experience. But for those that deal with the trek, those that put in the work, you are rewarded with probably the best deal you can get booking domestic flights. And I will also say, even if you're going not domestically, but to the Caribbean or Mexico, I believe the pricing is $10,000 one way in economy or $15,000 one way in business saver, which is still very competitive pricing. And I feel the most competitive of all the pricing, you can literally fly from Newark to Honolulu in business for $12,500. That's a 10-hour flight, and you could do it for $12,500 in business or $7,500 in economy. So if you can find the availability, phenomenal value.
I don't know about you. I've never found United Business domestic saver availability.
I've never found it in a route that I've needed, but I have parsed various results and have been able to find it for certain routes in certain cases, but never for something I've
Interesting.
needed.
Yeah.
So Sam, do you think this is something you would use?
I remember this being brought up, and this, is commonly referred to as the best domestic redemption value. But I, had Capital One miles, and then I spent them some time ago on probably just 1 cent per point through the travel portal, an idiot, because I didn't know I could transfer them. So now I didn't have any Capital One miles, but I just got the Vintrex, like I mentioned, for the 90,000 elevated bonus. And so all said and done, I should have 100,000 Capital One miles, which, in theory, that's, 12 round trip or 12 one ways to Honolulu and Atlanta back if I want to deal with Turkish. But I would like to, but I think that's what I was mentioning before. In my opinion, researching the redemptions is way more fun than booking them. Booking them when you transfer the points and you're scared, in my case, buying the points and then the availability disappears. Researching them is really fun, but especially when you have other people on your reservation and they have their own points, I think it all kind of gets a little too much for me. And especially I wouldn't want to be responsible for someone having to call in to do that phonetically, getting my P2 to waste her time of the day to do that. I think she'd just be I don't care. It is what it is. Let's just move on. I'll spend extra points if I don't have to do this. And so I do want to go to Hawaii at some point. I've never been. Maybe when I'm looking at it, I will consider this. I'll, ask around, see how long it takes on average, maybe set aside that time of the day. Because again, I work from home, my day's flexible, but for P2 it makes it a bit more challenging. But 7,500 miles from Atlanta to Honolulu, once again, 10-hour flight. That's an insane value. There's no way anything would ever compare to that. So it sounds great in theory, but it all sounds scary in theory.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's not for everyone, totally. For sure. So, okay, Sean, any other things you want to highlight?
About Turkish or just other sweet spots?
Sweet spots.
Yeah, I feel just real quickly, we should also mention with British Airways, you can book AA flights at Saver for business or economy. The rate depends on the specific route, but overall it's a pretty competitive, especially if you consider that there's frequent transfer bonuses to British Airways. I feel like it's a pretty competitive way to book. I've booked Saver Business from LA to Atlanta before, and it was, pretty good value. You can also, like, at a base, you can redeem your Sapphire Reserve points for 1.5 cents on the portal, which isn't, for domestic flights, it isn't that bad of value. I feel like for international, any kind of like premium cabin, it's completely horrible value, but for domestic economy, could be decent. And then for if you have the US Bank Altitude Reserve, it's actually even better because you can redeem those points against travel purchases directly. So you can actually still book directly with the airline. And so you don't have to deal with the travel portal, but you can still redeem the points at 1.5 cents each. But I feel like the Turkish and Southwest Companion Pass are probably the main airline economy sweet spots for domestic flights. But yeah, and then Hyatt's also, as we talked before, like really, really good value for the hotel side. You're not really going to find another program good for the hotel side except maybe IHG.
Yeah, I still think the Altitude Reserve from US Bank is so underrated, though, because you're getting 3x back on all mobile wallet, uncapped. You're redeeming those points at 1.5 cents per point. Your real-time rewards, that's a 4.5% return on a lot of spend. And I think it's really good if you're not particularly loyal to any airline, because you can just redeem it at that fixed cent per point for any airline. And I never feel, when I redeem for that, I never feel like I'm missing out on some better redemption because I know what the value of those points are and it's fixed. So it's useful for domestic economy when it's hard to get outsized value, unless you're doing one of those tricks like Turkish.
I agree.
Is that a card you guys are looking into?
I would love that card, and I'm going to tell you right now why it's an underrated card. Because no one can get the card. They don't approve anyone. You have to have some stupid like 112 rule. You can't even. Is it you can't have an inquiry within the last 12 months, or you can have at most one inquiry in the last 12 months?
I got
Which one was it?
Successfully, surprisingly, because I particularly timed out my application strategy in a very particular way. But I think the recommendation is one account in the last 12 months on personal side.
I mean, that's like such low velocity. You have to sacrifice
I've seen approvals
so much to get it.
I've seen approvals of higher velocity now. I think they're sort of loosening it up recently, but yes, US Bank is pretty finicky with their approvals. Sam, is this a card you've looked into?
What was it? The US Altitude Bank?
US Bank Altitude Reserve.
I've heard of it. And was it that is like the $300? What are the credits it has?
Yeah, so it has a $400 annual fee, but has a $325 credit that can be used for any dining or travel purchases. So pretty much just face value. Like you don't even have to use portals or whatever. So to me, it's a $75 effective annual fee. I'm getting 3x on all mobile wallets, spend Google Pay or Apple Pay. Those points are worth 1.5 when I redeem for any travel purchases through real-time reward. So it's a 4.5% uncapped return. That's kind of my main go-to now. Actually.
Yeah, I mean that sounds great, but I don't know the next time I'll be 112. I'm doing pretty good to stay like between 324 and 424. Because business cards are my bread and butter. So pushing the envelope. I would love. There's so many cards I'd love to get, but that'd be just for the sake of like status or having them, and it would, I think, negatively impact my overall strategy. But and also I think in most cases there's like I've been looking at getting the American Airlines business card, or like just getting an American Airlines credit card. There's 3 personal and 1 business, so it seems
two.
For the
Barclays has.
Yes. So it seems for the most part like there's always a business counterpart to most of these co-branded cards, or like most in most areas. So that's kind of what I try to do, is just try to like fit in a business card that makes the most sense for me. So yes, I'd like that, and I would really, I don't know, I forget which card product changes to the Ritz-Carlton card, but I'd love to do that at some point. But I don't know if I can sacrifice a 524 to just have that card sit there for, is it a year before changing? Yeah, like have it sit there for a year and just not really, because is that a Marriott card?
Yeah, I mean, you do get a sign-up bonus and for that and anniversary certificates.
But remember, it also does invalidate you for 2 years on the Amex Marriott bonuses. So if you did want to go for like platinum or titanium, if you want to go for Marriott status, getting the Ritz card is not the route. But it is a better credit card. Like the Ritz card is the best Marriott card for sure. But it's like you get 1 bonus on Chase's end versus you can get like two on Amex's end because you get the business and the brilliant, and then you can get platinum / pretty close to titanium that way. So it's like a balancing act.
Yeah, and I've personally never even stayed at a Marriott with points. I don't even know if I've ever, like, I can't remember the last time I stayed at one. And so I'm not like a, hotel loyalist. Like I said, wherever I can get the most value from seems to be either Hyatt or IHG domestically, which I think something I didn't notice as well is like international bookings. There's like no taxes on, or like very little taxes with hotels. It seems like whatever the rate they're displaying is usually the rates you're going to get. But for somewhere like Chicago, I think it was, $650 before taxes and fees, and then it almost ended up being $800 after taxes and fees. And as most people know, if you book with points, you don't have to pay the fees or the tax and fees. And so I think that also is another strong point of IHG domestically is a lot of these big cities have these crazy taxes and fees they just chuck on for, even like one night stays. And so for like you guys mentioned, like British Airways, booking AA, I'm doing that, going to Chicago, staying at an IHG with points there. And so like Hilton, I haven't been able to find great value even with like the 5th night free at like mid-tier properties, but IHG, it was like 1 cent per point at a Kimpton in the winter, which no one goes to Chicago in the winter, so the value is even probably worse than. And then Virgin Atlantic for Delta is like my go-to, but my credit card strategy, unfortunately, there's not much flexibility with like having a crazy high velocity because I have to stay within the bounds, the confines of like my regular spend and my rent and all that stuff, and of course staying under 524. I'd love to, get a lot of those crazy high annual fee credit cards like the Aspire. One day I'll get there, Sean, have 3 or 4 like you. But we'll have to wait. That day will come eventually.
Yes.
Definitely. It sounds good.
Okay. Should we wrap up here then?
Yeah, I think we should wrap up. If anyone else, either of you have anything else to say real quick before we wrap up?
Don't think so.
Oh, yeah, awesome. So thank you so much, Sam, for joining us today. And we hope you've all enjoyed today's episode. If you would like to connect with an elite group of war travelers, check out the Discord at the link in the description, 100% for free. We're also going to link Sam's channel in the description. Go check that out. And also, if you want to help support the podcast directly, the easiest way to do that is to use our affiliate links whenever you do plan to apply for a credit card. It helps us out so much, and it doesn't cost you anything. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week.